So the Vault of Glass is back, and I have never played Vault of Glass before. I've played a little bit of Destiny 1, but I never got to that in-game content. So this was my first time trying Vault of Glass, and so in this video I'll just give you my opinion, because I think a lot of the opinions that have come out have come from people who were like comparing the Destiny 1 Vault of Glass and the Destiny 2 Vault of Glass, and I thought it might be interesting for some of you to hear the first impression of this raid from someone who has never played it before and is playing it for the first time in Destiny 2. Hi guys, welcome to Gaming Watcher. My name is Rolson, and in this video I'll tell you my opinion of Vault of Glass. So first of all, I want to say I thought Vault of Glass was a great raid. I like the whole setting that you're in. It's kind of a different way to see the Black Garden than what we have seen from Garden of Salvation. I like everything to do with Vex. I've said this many times before. Every time we fight Vex, I love it because I like the environments around the Vex. I like the Vex as a race. I like the enemy types, the mechanics that are there when you fight Vex. There was also a lot of like running around, kind of what feels like a maze, and tight spaces and caves that suddenly opens up, and it's this huge cave that you run around in, and you have to not be discovered, and like there's a lot of nice stuff in there. I liked the mechanics of all the different encounters. There was no mechanics where I was like, this is just freaking annoying. Like you have in something like Garden of Salvation, for example, where the last boss fight is just some of the mechanics that they put in there is just like, it's just annoying. It's not even like fun. Like the platforms disappearing and you having to build them again. It's just an annoyance. It doesn't really make the encounter more fun, I think. And there was no mechanics like that in that raid, and so that was something that I really enjoyed. That it felt very straightforward. It was easy to get an explanation. Of course I hadn't tried it before, and I was on a Sherpa run with someone who had played it in Destiny 1 as well, and also had played it in Destiny 2 sometimes before this Sherpa run. And getting the explanations for these different encounters, it was very easy to understand. And that's not always the case with Destiny raids. Like, we had something like Spire of Stars. I hope that's coming back at some point. But Spire of Stars, when you like got an explanation of some of the mechanics and some of the encounters, it was just like, what? And then you just had to try it out and see what it was actually like. It was hard to explain how to actually do some of the encounters in Spire of Stars because it was so complicated. Like the last boss encounter, for example, in Spire of Stars is very complicated, and it's kind of hard to explain. You kind of have to just experience it and see how you need to do things, and even then it's kind of hard to grasp everything, and you kind of have to try it a lot of times to do it right. And I just felt like the Vault of Glass, it was very easy to understand what you had to do, and once you tried it, it was like, oh yeah, this was what I expected, and it makes a lot of sense, and I can see what's happening, and I feel like I understand. Like it's not like total confusion and chaos, and like you have 5 different mechanics all going on at once that you have to take into account. It was very basic, and that's kind of like that was a great thing, but that's also kind of the criticism that I have of this raid. And now remember, I have not played this in Destiny 1. I have never tried this before, so I'm kind of looking at it through the lens of I've only played raids in Destiny 2, and the raids that I've played the most is the newer ones. So that's Scourge of the Past, the Garden of Salvation, it is the Deepstone Crypt, it is Crown of Sorrows. And when you compare those to Vault of Glass seems very, very simple and basic. You can kind of tell that this is a raid from Destiny 1, in that it feels like they hadn't invented that many mechanics at that point. And so the mechanics are very, very simple. You know, it's like some enemies have a shield. You can only remove that shield if you have the relic. That's a very, very basic mechanic. Another mechanic, you get a debuff. Someone who has the relic can remove this debuff. Very simple. Another mechanic, you have to shoot the confluxes, and you have to shoot the confluxes in the order that they appear. Now I know this is something that they actually changed since Destiny 1. It was even more simple in Destiny 1 apparently, but even with this order that you have to shoot them in, it's still a very, very simple mechanic. Like there's nothing to it, you just have to shoot them in the right order. Then you have that encounter where you're supposed to not be seen by the harpies. That reminds me kind of the Leviathan encounter with the dogs, where you have to kind of sneak around and not be detected. I think that's kind of fun. It's a fun thing when they implement like a stealth mechanic like that into a raid. It feels kind of out of place, but at the same time it's a fun like break from the kind of usual mechanics that you're used to. So I kind of liked that. Then there's the very first mechanic, like stand on plates and shoot enemies. Very, very simple. Then there's the boss fight. That's kind of like the most complicated encounter, of course, of the raid, and it's still very, very simple. It's like someone gets teleported somewhere. The guys that did not get teleported needs to tell the guys who are teleported in what order they need to shoot the confluxes. The guys that are shooting the confluxes has a debuff that they need to remove continually with that relic thing. When they have shot the confluxes in the right order, they will go back, and there's a damage phase. During the damage phase, someone will get that detainment thing, and they will have to kind of go away from the rest of the team so everyone doesn't get caught up in it, and then you have to remove that, and then you can just do damage. And that's basically it. That's it. There's no more mechanics than that, and you just do that over and over again. And that's what I find simple, you know. It's like we've kind of gotten used to having so many different things to juggle around, or just having like many different phases of the boss fight. Just like in the Deepstone Crypt at the last fight, like that's a very easy boss fight as well, but you have like you have a lot of different things that you need to coordinate, and you have a lot of like different phases that like first you have to take care of all the ads, then Tanix will go to some place, and depending on that place you need to deposit those nuclear charges in different places. So you have this randomness that determines what you need to do, so you need to really keep an eye out for that. Then you have the detainment as well. In that, like someone will get detained and the operator needs to shoot the bubble thing. Then you go into the damage phase, and in the damage phase there's also like those like the debris flying around that you have to be aware of. Someone has to be divinity bitch, right? Like you need to coordinate who's doing the bubble, who's doing the well. And then after you've done enough damage, there's actually a final damage phase, and you can not complete that. Like it's possible to not succeed in that last damage phase, and you will have to kind of start over. That almost never happens, but it is possible actually. And so like that's an example. Garden of Salvation is another example of an extremely complicated final boss encounter where there's so many different mechanics that you have to take into account, and you have to be really fast and you have to be really coordinated to actually succeed. And the Vault of Glass Atheon encounter just felt like we could just like wing it, you know? We didn't really have to coordinate that much. It was just like whoever didn't get teleported, someone just said, I'm gonna read the confluxes. Okay, so you do that, then they read the confluxes, then the other guys came back, then we did damage, then someone else got teleported, and they were like, okay, I'm gonna get the relic, and I'm gonna read the confluxes. You know, people just calling out on the fly. I'm gonna do this. And we've gotten so used to that you need to, before the encounter starts, you need to kind of delegate different roles and say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna be team 1, I'm gonna be team 2, I'm gonna put up the well here, I'm gonna put up the bubble. Like all of these different roles. In Scourge of the Past you had Cap, and you kind of needed to coordinate and say, okay, so I'm gonna pull up a well on C, for example, or A, and where are we gonna stand? Are we gonna stand in the green building, or are we just gonna wing it out in front of the boss, which I always thought was a terrible idea. But that's a whole discussion, right? I'm just saying, it felt like you know that I don't remember what it's called, but I think it's the encounter in Deepstone Crypt right before the boss encounter, the final boss encounter, where the ship crashes, you go through the atmosphere. We always do what we call chaos strategy, which is just you don't assign any roles, you just pick something up, and because the roles are so easy and everyone knows what to do, you can kind of just wing it, and people just, the only thing you really need to call out is like the scanner needs to call out where to put the nuclear charges, and if someone is deactivated you need to call that out, and other than that you can just do whatever the fuck you want and just wing it. And that's because the mechanics are very, very simple, and I just thought that almost the entire Vault of Glass raid felt this way. It felt like you could just like coordinate on the fly and just like wing everything. And you know, it might be because I was playing it with very experienced players who had tried the raid a lot of times before. That might be why I thought it felt that way. I'm totally open to that possibility. I'm not saying that like I know how this raid feels. I'm just saying this was my experience of Vault of Glass from the perspective of not having tried any Destiny 1 raids and not having tried this raid before, and only having tried like the latest raids in Destiny 2. This was kind of how I saw it. It was very, very simple, very easy to understand, which was nice. I had a really good experience with this. It's not like I'm not shitting on Vault of Glass. I thought it was a great raid, but I just thought that it was very, very simple, and you could kind of in that way sense that it was an old raid. Also just the environment. Like it was beautiful and all, but it was very simple, and it was very much the same all the way through the raid. It wasn't like the Deepstone Crypt where the environment kind of changes up a lot. You start like outside in the blizzard and you have to go on the sparrows, and then you get inside, and then you get up in space and you jump around out in space, and then at last you end up down on this crash site. And it wasn't like Last Wish where you're kind of like just in awe of how beautiful the environment is in the raid, and you're like, wow, this looks amazing, and Riven is like this huge thing. It wasn't like that either. It was quite simple. Everything looked kind of the same. The last room looks nice. Like I like that whole triangle thing in the background, but it's not really a spectacle compared to what we have gotten in Destiny 2. It just isn't. It's not really that impressive anymore. I'm sure it might have been in Destiny 1, but compared to what we have gotten both with like the Dreaming City and Europa and the Deepstone Crypt and the Garden of Salvation as well. Like that was my first experience with something happening in the Black Garden. That was Garden of Salvation, and I think Garden of Salvation environmentally is way more advanced, if you could say that. Way more beautiful than Vault of Glass. Vault of Glass is kind of simple, kind of basic. And so that was kind of my first impression of Vault of Glass. Now you might agree with me, you might disagree with me, you might have never played the raid before. Anyways, I would love to hear what you guys think. If you agree with me, please tell me why in the comment section. If you don't agree with me, if you think I'm an idiot, let me know in the comment section. Let's have a discussion. I always answer my comments, guys. So if there's something you want to say to me or you want to discuss with me, the comment section is a very good place for that, because I always answer. So write me a comment, I'll answer. Let's have a discussion about what you guys thought about the Vault of Glass raid in Destiny 2. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next video.